Hello, everyone. Claire Jones from Clarifications Coaching. My mission is to help badass entrepreneurs grow their businesses without burning out. And Happy New Year to all of you guys. This is my first video in the new year, and I'm really excited to get back to business and get rolling with all of the exciting stuff that I have planned for this year. So sorry for the radio silence. I've been in the middle of moving, and as I'm sure you're aware, it's kind of a roller coaster of chaos whenever you're moving. So I'm all set up in my new place and I'm ready to roll. And so to kick off the new year, I thought I would talk about this concept called SCARF. It is a framework that was developed by the Neuro Leadership Institute as a way to understand the true drivers of human behavior. And so after decades of researching the brain, looking at fMRIs, doing psychology studies, the researchers at the Neuro Leadership Institute have figured out that much of our social behavior is driven by the reward and threat networks in the brain, and B, several domains of social experience draw on these threat and reward networks in the brain. And so they've literally seen through fMRI work, all of these other brain study imaging work, that when you are interacting in social environments, different networks in your brain are triggered, and they're mostly based in either a reward framework or in a threat framework. And so they've created this kind of guideline called SCARF to help us understand what individual sensitivities people may have that activate either the reward or the threat networks in their brains. So today I'm going to go over those, and this is really important when you are collaborating with others, influencing others, managing others, building teams, and it's even really important in a marketing strategy perspective or in a networking strategy perspective, because you're really understanding how people's brains work on a fundamental level and how they react to how you motivate them, how you engage them. And so this can apply to both managing and leading others, collaborating and teamwork, or marketing, networking, and the sales process ultimately. So I thought I'd go over this today and give you guys a bit of a framework to consider and maybe incorporate into the way that you interact with people on your day-to-day basis. So these 5 domains activate either the primary reward or the primary threat networks in the brain. And so SCARF stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. So status is your relative importance to others. Certainty is your ability to know and predict the future. Autonomy is the sense of control you have over the events that are occurring. Relatedness is a sense of safety with others. And fairness is fair exchanges between people. And so every person has varying degrees of sensitivity to these 5 domains. And so some people may be more sensitive to a status reward, say, for example, versus a fairness reward, for example. And so labeling and understanding these drivers can help in 2 ways. First, knowing these drivers can cause a threat response enables people to intentionally design their interactions with others to minimize those threats. And so, for example, if a leader knows, or an educator knows, or a business owner knows that a lack of autonomy activates a genuine threat response in someone's brain, then they may consciously avoid micromanaging people or employees or team members or family members, even members of the community. And second, knowing how to use these drivers to activate a reward response enables leaders or business owners or community members to motivate others more effectively by tapping into the internal reward systems, thereby reducing the reliance on external rewards like monetary rewards, something like that. So for example, a manager might grant more autonomy as a reward for good performance instead of doing a bonus. So if you don't have the capital to give your employees bonuses, you may want to consider what rewards they find valuable out of this framework and consider giving them a reward that's not monetarily based. So how can you give them more status maybe you need to give them a job title increase as a reward if you don't have the money for a bonus, or give them more certainty in the way that the work is conducted, or give them more autonomy, giving them more freedom and control over the way that things are run in the business, or reward them with relatedness. Throw a pizza party for all of the employees and have a company event where they can all socialize and create a sense of safety with one another. Or give them a fairness reward. Make sure that things are really fair in the way that you run the business. So there are a lot of different ways to tap into those reward networks in a way that doesn't really require monetary rewards. And you can avoid the threat response by being sensitive to these various domains when you are interacting with people. And so when an individual encounters a reward, it will likely lead to an approach response. And when they encounter a threat, it will likely lead to an avoid response. And so this is significant because it becomes apparent when one discovers the substantial effect these responses have on perception and problem solving. And so when a human being senses a threat and their body produces an avoid response, the resources available for overall executive functioning is definitely decreased in the prefrontal cortex. And we're talking about this area that's right in your forehead, right here in your brain. And the prefrontal cortex is really important for working memory, for executive functions, for memory retention, stuff like that. And so if you are in an active threat response or an avoid response, you can't really tap into the power that is in your prefrontal cortex. So you don't have good working memory. You don't have good executive control. And this is really important when it comes to emotion regulation too, because that all happens up here. All of your social interactions are primarily based in the prefrontal cortex. So if you are in the threat response, you're decreasing your ability to tap into those resources in your brain. And so the result is literally less oxygen and glucose available for linear conscious processing. And so thus, someone in this state is less likely to be able to solve complex problems and more likely to make mistakes. They are also less likely to perceive the subtle signals required for insight or an aha experience. And this is when your brain is able to link a lot of differentiated parts in your brain. And that's bringing into the concept of nonlinear processing. So I don't know if you guys have watched any of my videos about making decisions, but there are two decision processes in the brain, linear and nonlinear. And when you tap into the nonlinear insight-based processing, then you are better able to come up with innovative ideas, creative ideas, things that come out of the blue, hit like a ton of bricks, that idea of an aha moment or a eureka moment. And so you are less likely to tap into this mind space if you are in a threat response or an avoid response. And so leaders, business owners, community leaders can really tap into understanding of this framework to avoid a threat response in the people that they're interacting with, because then you get more out of them ultimately. And so if people are also in a threat response, then they shrink from anything perceived as dangerous and err on the safe side. And the small stressors are likely to be perceived as much larger than they are. So obviously, this response is not ideal when collaborating with and influencing others. And so on the other hand, an approach response is closely linked with the idea of engagement. Engagement is a state of being willing to do difficult things and to take risks, to think deeply about issues, and develop new solutions. And so this state is associated with positive emotions such as interest, happiness, joy, desire, and this leads to increased dopamine levels. I don't know if you've ever heard of the term dopamine, but it's a chemical in the brain that basically produces a feel-good feeling. And you really want to tap into your dopamine on a day-to-day basis because it puts you in a better mind space. It makes you more productive, makes you more creative, makes you more likely to have those aha moments and tap into the insight experience. And so studies show that when people are experiencing these positive emotions, they can perceive more options when they're trying to solve problems. They can solve more nonlinear problems that require insight. and they collaborate better and they perform better overall. And so overall, the SCARF model can improve people's capacity to understand and ultimately modify their own and other people's behavior in social situations, thus becoming more adaptive. And so the model is especially relevant for organizational leaders and managers, organizational learning and development professionals, facilitators, trainers, coaches, consultants, teachers, as well as social workers, community aid workers, and anyone looking to influence others. And so you can really use this in a marketing strategy or a networking strategy as well. It's not just for, company or organization leadership for the managers to take into account. And so if you're interested in learning more, I've done a couple blogs about this. You can go to the blogs section of my website here. You can see it on the top menu. Go to blogs. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. And then I also have using SCARF for employee engagement surveys. And so if you are interested in seeing what level of engagement your employees are actually experiencing on a day-to-day basis, this is a great way to test that by testing, are they experiencing SCARF threats or are they experiencing SCARF rewards? And so you can ask questions based on status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. And so it's a survey designed with 10 questions based off of the Gallup's Q12 assessment. And so you can click here if you're interested in learning more about that. But the questions were as follows. For understanding status and how they interact with status, you can ask, in the last 7 days, have you received recognition or praise for doing good work? Or you can ask, at work, do your opinions seem to count? Or does the mission/purpose of the company make you feel like your job is important? In the last 6 months, has someone at work talked to you about your progress? And in the last year, have you had opportunities at work to learn and grow? And so this is ways that you can measure employees' perception of their status within the company and within their job. If you're interested in certainty, you can ask, do you know what is expected of you at work? If you're interested in autonomy, you can ask, do you have the materials and equipment you need to do your work right? If you're interested in relatedness, you can ask, does your supervisor or someone at work seem to care about you as a person? Or is there someone at work who encourages your development? And if you're interested in fairness, are your fellow employees committed to doing quality work? Are situations set up so that you seem like it's fair within the workplace? So that's if you want to use it for employee engagement or any type of engagement. If you run a community group or, church groups, anything like that, you can literally measure people's levels of engagement with that. And so that's available in that blog. Or you can look at this blog on collaborating with others, and it goes over more of the SCARF domain and why it's important, and a little bit of what I already went over previously, but it goes into a little more depth, talks about workplace engagement, approach response, avoid response, all of that kind of stuff. And so if you're interested in doing a SCARF assessment for yourself, they do provide it online. It's provided at neuroleadership.com/research/tools/NLI-SCARF-assessment/. And so you can fill out the form and you will understand the differences in people's social motivation. Maybe they are more sensitive to status, threat, and rewards, others certainty and relatedness, but you can really get a good idea. And so you can even test people on this within your organization or people you network with, for example, and really understand what drives them and what they respond to best. And so this is a great tool to use when you are literally interacting with anyone. You can even use it with spouses. You can even use it with friends. And if you really understand what they're sensitive to, you can better interact with them and better address their needs as an individual. Because really, people want to feel heard. They want to feel listened to, and they want to feel seen. And if they feel that way with you, they're more likely to know, like, and trust you, which goes back to a bunch of the things that I've talked about when it comes to marketing strategies. People aren't going to buy from you unless they know, like, and trust you. And this is a way to get their trust and really get to know them and let them get to know you as well as an individual. So I just wanted to jump on today and do a little overview of the SCARF model. I hope that was helpful for you. Let me know if you have any questions, concerns, follow up. I'm happy to hear from you. So let me know what you think. Yeah. And that's it for today. I love you all. Take care and have a good one. Bye.